Last week, Ankama told us that we were going to have answers about professions, Kolossium, and moderations, which were the three biggest topic of the week. And so today they posted their answer, and we're going to dive into it. So the first topic were the professions. So let's read what they said about that. I'm interested. I think the biggest problem about it is the high competition for limited resources and the fact that it's super easy. So the bots just thrive and steal all of the limited resources. It's two problems that go kind of hand in hand. But let's go. Crafting is without a doubt one of the most stable pillars of Dofus. In 20 years of existence, it crossed time without major disruptions. A few notable improvements still saw the light of day. Deletion of failures at fabrication, the possibility to create items in lots instantly, thank God for that, or the lifting of restrictions on the amount of professions a character can have. Yeah, remember that. You had to pick, I think it was 2 or 3 professions. In parallel, a few achievements linked to professions were added, recipes were reworked to reinforce the interdependence between professions, and the Smith Magic interface saw some important improvements, notably with the display of remaining sync. Yeah, that is super recent. But at its core, the base gameplay remains unchanged. Alright, not giving me too much to work for my thumbnail here, fortunately. Dofus is a game that often pushes players to create new characters, whether it's to discover another class or occasionally the opening of new servers, temporary or definitive. In this context, having to restart professions each time without any notable change in their functioning can quickly become repetitive. The pleasure of discovery disappears and leaves behind a continuous routine. Yeah, I agree with that. Fabrication professions. At the heart of the game experience, fabrication professions allow you to create sets, weapons, dungeon keys. They can thus play a central role in the economy by representing the main source of resource destruction. Their functioning is very simple. You only need to assemble the required ingredients to create the desired item. This model has evolved little over time, but its simplicity remains its strength. Personally, I don't think there's any problem with that. There isn't really bots that overly fabricate items, and to discover recipes that are profitable, since the economy is always evolving, you need to keep track and pay attention and do some trial and error. So I think it's a fun mechanic to navigate, and it's not too impacted by bots. Harvesting professions are distributed between two uses. On one side, the production of healing or energy restorations consumable. On the other, providing resources necessary to the crafting of equipments. This type of profession offers an exploration aspect for finding resources and a crafting aspect through the usage of the workshop. But this system has many limitations. The first concerns the availability of resources. That's what I was saying a bit earlier. They're spawning being shared between players, each finds himself in competition to obtain them. If this limitation allows a natural regulation of the service economy, yeah, that's true, negatively impacts the fluidity of progression and encourages toxic behaviors like the use of bots and cheating. I think they hit the nail on the head here. Another weakness concerns duplicates between professions. Alchemists, farmer, and fishermen mainly produce the same types of consumables. If that allows the dilution of competitive pressure, it also accentuates the feeling of repetitiveness. Yeah, if you want to level up both alchemist, farmer, and fisherman, it's gonna be pretty much the same with a small flavor change of you being near water instead of being in a forest. They've got some spin doctor working there, people trying out new classes constantly. Why oh why Ankama must, because they might notice they're left behind by their peers playing the meta class. Ankama class change conspiracy. Good old Shakma. Available for Smith Magic Professions. Unavoidable for those of you who wish to optimize their equipment. Smith Magic Professions are the most demanding in terms of knowledge. Where other professions ask only a bit of mastery, Smith Magic creates a true distinction between neophytes and experts, depending on the degree of knowledge of the system. Yes, I agree with that. These last few years, many improvements were brought. Display of density of runes, new types of runes, visibility of the sync, improvement of the interface performances, many details that reinforce the comfort of use and the legibility of the action. Despite this, Smith Magic remains opaque for many, and still too rigid for those actively practicing it. Hello, Emmy. What could change? Competition. In a previous communication, we evoked the future revamp of guilds. Among the approaches considered features, the creation of instance areas reserved for guilds where harvestable resources could be regrouped. This private space would reduce competition between players while encouraging cooperation in communities. Oh, that's interesting. So instanced areas only available to guilds. Kind of like a guild island. I don't know if you play Guild Wars 2. I think they're in this game. Oh, I think it was Albion. Albion Online has guild islands. We can have workshops and stuff like that. So that's interesting. And then that would allow like people, let's say, on Tuesday I get free use of the harvestable resources on the guild island. You could like create a schedule or whatever. Or Alliance territories could only be harvested by Alliance member, right? Yes, that's right. That's a bit like this. But instead of having like one territory like Canik Village that only one Alliance has access to, it's like if your guild is level, I don't know, 10, then you get 3 nodes of each resource in your guild island. But if your guild is level 100, you get access to a bigger island, bigger... I think like since it's instance, it's not gonna be like as competitive. It's gonna reduce the competitiveness, and that's why it's listed in the solution for competition. Comfort and ergonomics. We continue to listen to your feedback. Which interface elements seem too rigid? What information is still missing to facilitate your experience? These questions guide our reflections, and your suggestions are precious. Not that much here. Repetitiveness and the absence of specialization. A better specialization of harvesting professions by diversifying the types of consumable they produce could reinforce their uniqueness. Oh, that's interesting. In the longer term, we could consider further gamifying certain actions. For example, watch your hook when fishing or sighting with precision to harvest. But such an approach would imply a profound change to your habits and would require more attention. Yeah, a lot of people that are doing some harvest are mostly doing it AFK, especially farmer. You just click, you queue all the actions. And if you need to click at the right time, then I guess might as well go fight some stuff. Fishing minigame classic. Yeah, by the way, I'm gonna touch a bit after I finish reading this article, but they also posted an article about professions for Dofus Touch, and they are talking about this, like having quick time events to fish, to harvest, to do stuff like that. Which kind of makes sense in the context of Dofus Touch, because if you're playing Dofus Touch, you're on your phone. You can't have like a second screen, watch a video at the same time, or do something else. I feel like Dofus Touch is more like when you're playing, you're not doing something else at the same time, so it makes sense to have something to keep you invested in the thing. Alright, towards the share progression. The introduction of the future breeder profession is a first. Its progression will not be linked to a character, but shared through the server. This choice is caused by a technical constraint linked to paddock access. It's also a test. It will allow us to observe your reactions, your usage, and to evaluate if this sharing could extend to other professions. So just as a recap, when you level up to the breeder profession, that's going to be coming up later this year, you gain access to other paddocks. And so if you switch a character and you want to access the paddocks that you have access to with your other character, it makes sense that your profession is shared on the server. That means if you create a new character, it's level 60, you want to go grab a mount, you can access the level 100 or 200 paddock if your other character has breeder level 200, for instance. Towards a modernization of professions and a fight against bots. An upcoming Dofus Retro update will focus on professions. It's an ancient reflection for the team, since certain professions are still resting on very basic mechanics. This simplicity, though it can be attractive due to its accessibility, also encourages a toxic competition, makes the creation of bot particularly easy. Dofus Retro thus aims to reward these aspects, and we are very curious to observe the effects of these evolutions, particularly since the gameplay foundation is shared between Dofus Retro and Dofus 3. Also, maybe I'm wrong and it's Dofus Retro that they want to add and not Dofus Touch. In conclusion, crafting is a special aspect of Dofus, but it's also a system that evolved little with a routine that sometimes becomes tiring. The questions are numerous about the challenge, and the challenge is important. How to keep the simplicity without sacrificing depth. How to reward commitment without excluding the newcomers. This is the whole of Dofus, is this question. How to not destroy the economy of legacy servers while still making Ochre not cost 2 months of salary on the Pioneer servers. How to preserve the economy without encouraging cheating. In any case, we're excited to explore those approaches, improve interfaces, review the progression dynamics, and most importantly, deeply modernize the profession's experience to offer you more lively, fluid, and exciting crafting. Okay, let's see what people are saying. I read the Dofus Retro post despite having never played, and I can for myself say it sounds really amazing. I hope you can bring the system to 3.0. Gathering right now is almost impossible at my playing hours. And that's not including the bots that are running around 24/7. Should Dofus mainline be leading the way in innovation in the Dofus game space? Feels really disheartening to have an entire blog that is telling us a different game are going to try and solve this problem first, but Dofus 3.0 won't. Well, Dofus 3.0 has a lot of issues that Dofus Retro might not have, like a lot of bugs. So it makes sense that other games that didn't have a full engine change have more bandwidth to try new stuff. Let's jump into Kolossium now. Okay, so Kolossium I'm mostly gonna read because I have no opinion on that because I don't play it. Alright, the Kolossium is the Hall of Heroes of the World of 12, an area of confrontation where the best strategists face off against one another, where adaptation becomes second nature. This game mode, previously a cornerstone of PvP, has evolved over the years. First centered in 3v3 fights, it opened up to new formats, 1v1 first, then 2v2. And yet, despite this apparent diversity, Kolossium is today deserted by part of the player base, and those who are still diligently attending have been raising up recurrent criticism for many months. Okay, let's read why. Short-term solutions. Making a general assessment of the Kolossium is good, but offering short-term solutions is even better. This is why multiple concrete adjustments already listed on our website via public tickets are being deployed. However, it needs to be reminded that they represent the first basis of a necessary balancing plan to enter the game on June 17th. That's super soon. Interesting. Revision of rating gain. In 2v2 and 3v3, only the highest rating of the team will be taken into account and not the average of the team's rating. That seems like a weird decision. Modification of the rating and legendary rank. Loss of 4 points per 24 hours to 15 points every 7 days. So you decay. If you're legendary, you will decay. Yes. Recalculation of the minimal rating. For level 200, it can now go down to 600 points under the initial rating. So I guess that means you will be placed more accurately after your placement matches. Tolerance on sanction linked to inactive players. A more just measure in cases where the player voluntarily or involuntarily passes their turn. Okay, I guess more nuance on why this person passes their turn. There's already a poison on the enemy, you pass your turn because you don't have to play, the enemy's already dead. You won't get sanctioned, but if you just skip your turn because you're tilted and you type racist stuff in chat, then maybe more sanctions. Addition of information. Players' classes now appear in the info bubble when hovering the timeline. Okay, that's interesting. You don't have to recognize, you can just hover. It will tell you. Adjustment of certain matchmaking rules. Modification of the maximum amount of daily fights. This one was 100, I think. Okay, long-term solutions. Distribution of level 200 player on the Kolossium formats at the launch of the season. So people mostly play 1v1 or 3v3, and a little bit of people play 2v2. But at least 45 people, 45% of the people have played at least one match of 2v2. And when it goes to 50 matches, it goes down to 8%. So people are curious about 2v2, but then they don't get involved that much. Shocking observation. The 2v2 did not reach its audience. Only 13% of the daily fights are 2v2 and barely 11% of players are fully dedicated to them. The crushing majority alternates between 1v1 and 3v3, abandoning this intermediary format. I am surprised personally by that. I don't play either of these modes, but I thought it would be easy for you to just find one friend and queue up for 2v2 instead of finding two friends to queue up for 3v3. But I'm guessing most people queue up in 3v3 as solo and they play with randoms. Reflections on 2v2. Against a lower interest for 2v2, a transformation of this game mode is being studied. Rather than maintaining it permanently, we are considering offering it as an event queue once or twice a year. This choice would renew its attractiveness and renew the Kolossium experience through an innovative lens. So that's... I'm gonna keep making reference to the league because this is the only competitive game that I've played somewhat seriously. And so rotating game modes like Arena in League of Legends where you can queue 2v2, v2, v2, v2. That's kind of... they don't have it all year long. Sometimes when they have it, then people kind of like the rarity and go play this game mode. Background reflections. Build a durable Kolossium. Beyond these intermittent adjustments, many more in-depth lines of thought are ongoing. Separation of the leagues, creation of two distinct Kolossium, one reserved for level 200 and the other for pre-200. Isn't it already the case? Double registration possible. Authorize players to simultaneously register for 1v1 and 3v3 to add fluidity to the weight. I think that's a really good idea. Official tournaments put the spotlight on the best players via regular competition for the highest ratings. That's cool. I don't like playing PvP, but I like watching PvP, the little that I did. Reviewed rewards. Improved gains and cosmetic associated to the Kolossium. Adapted equipments, reflection on a help, or equipment loan system specific to PvP. That sentence kind of makes no sense, but I guess that they mean like you can borrow or it's not clear. Let's I guess we'll see later. New modes in Kolossium. Moreover, the tools recently developed by the game design team, visible in Gladiator notably, opened the way to new reflections and more exotic game modes centered on fun. So, for those who haven't played Gladiator, it's choice pop-ups, it's getting new spells, your spells evolve, the monster spawns kind of a wave fight, but you can see like the Mama Troll outside of the arena, and then she comes into it. Glyphs on the ground that you can pick up to gain rewards and stuff like that. In conclusion, through these short and long-term actions, we invite you to imagine Kolossium of tomorrow, a more flexible place, more open, better adapted to your current expectations, where each combat becomes an adventure again, a place that deserves more than ever its title of All of Heroes. So I'm gonna give a quick personal opinion on Kolossium. Personally, I dislike having Kolossium be played with the equipment that you have on your character, like as part of the MMO. Like you grind for equipment, you get better gear, you min-max your stuff, and then you use it to smash noobs. I always feel like I'm under gear for Kolossium and for PvP. And I would be more interested in playing if it was just like the beta. Everyone has max stats on their equipment. They can't have specific the like KTA rules basically. But I understand that for people that they said that they wouldn't do that in the live for separation of PvP and PvE. But yeah, for me, I don't really enjoy like making a billion kamas and buying like these crazy gears just to be able to compete in PvP. So it kind of puts me off. But maybe if it was less competitive and more for fun game modes, then I would be more interested. Continue doing these bad decisions, you'll eventually succeed in killing your game off. 1000 says that. I'd be interested in getting his opinion on how PvP is going. Maybe I can manage to get him on stream to discuss this with me at some point. I love the idea of fun game modes in Kolossium. So we have here 1000 and Gluto who have two completely different opinions. League of Legends style Poroking, but with a souped up Royal Gobble. Yes, please. I'm really sad that 2v2 is getting sidelined as it's the only current casual fun game mode. And it's also a place where classes like Rogue can shine. Okay. It's cause 1000 only plays 2v2 mostly. Also, okay. That's why he's sad that they're putting 2v2 on the side. All right, I'm gonna switch to the next topic, which is moderation. A lot of the time, like lots of my comments on the video for last week were about, is there no official comment from Ankama on bots and moderation and stuff like that? So I think this topic might give some answers regarding this. Yeah, it's moderation, anti-botting fight, and perspectives. So I think this will interest a lot of people. Let's see if it's mostly Ankama acknowledging that there's a problem but not giving us hints in at their solutions, or if they have actually solutions that they want to share. Personally, I think they've said it time and time again. When they share their strategies to fight bots, it gives information that is valuable to bots maker. If they say we will implement this anti-bot measure before they actually implement it, then by the time it's actually implemented, the bots have implemented a solution to counter this, and it's actually useless. So that's why they usually keep us in the dark about what they do against bots, because most of the fight against bots is based on information. That said, let's read this. Moderation in Dofus is regularly subject to critical feedback, notably in relation to the fight against bots, in-game toxicity, or the handling of reports. It seems important for us to recenter the role of moderation, present its limitations, and share the ongoing evolutions, notably on reporting tool, sanctions, and internal discussions around anti-botting. Let's see what they said. They say, the role of moderation on Dofus. Moderation is handled by volunteers passionate about the world of 12 who are dedicating their free time to ensure the respect of the rules and the well-being of the game. They are not Ankama employees. This means two important things. First, their main mission is not to fight bots. This responsibility is directly Ankama's, though through automated tools, detection system, and targeted technical actions. They've been telling us in multiple lives, we've been doing ban waves. So they are telling us when they are taking action. Personally, I don't do content in game that is really impacted by bots. So I don't have a really good way of observing if there are a lot of bots or not. But I've heard people say that there were a lot. So that's why people are always asking like Ankama to do more. They are there to ensure the respect of the general game rules. Toxic behavior, insults, inappropriate usernames, illegal trade, obvious cheating, etc. They play an essential role, but they cannot, whether through their numbers or their means, cover the entirety of automated or fraudulent abuses. Makes sense. Remunerated moderation. Why it's not a viable solution. So a lot of people I've been seeing on the forums, I've been asking, why not just pay moderators? Certain members of the community suggested that we professionalize moderation, or to pay moderators dedicated to the fight against bots. We understand this suggestion. It comes from a real observation. Bots profoundly affect the game experience. However, we must be clear. People alone cannot efficiently deal with massive, evolving, and automated activity. Even paid, 10 or 100 moderators cannot rival with scripts capable of generating thousands of accounts per day. That's true. Bots adapt their behavior faster than people can detect them. This fight is led first and foremost through technique, automated tools, and algorithmic detection. So basically, they didn't answer the question. Well, they said people are not a good tool to fight bots because bots have automated ways of like creating massive amounts of accounts, and if bots are obvious to humans and they detect them, after a while the bots adapt and they become no longer easy to detect. And personally, I can concur with that. Like when I try to farm some resources and I see someone just walk in and click all the nodes, like, is this a bot? Or is this like me, another human watching a TV show and clicking as fast as they can? Obviously, if they're like in gobble set, have no ornament, and have like a bunch of gibberish numbers as their name, then I'm leaning more towards it's a bot. But yeah, random guide tutorial set farming level 200 wheat. Yeah, it's some hints become obvious, but these hints are easily fixed. The in-game reporting system. Deployed in September 2024, the in-game reporting system is one of the major tools that the player disposition to fight against inappropriate behaviors. It allows players to quickly report certain abuses or cheats to the moderation team, which can then act more efficiently and at larger scale. So I think the mods team and the reporting system is more targeted against someone that's really doing inappropriate behavior and is a person and not fighting against bots. You can report people for botting, but I don't think the moderation can do anything about it. To give you an idea, since May 1st, 2025, we have collected 29,252 approved reports. This number can seem enormous, but doesn't take duplicates into account. The same account can, for example, receive dozens of reports from different users. In terms of sanctions, by accumulating the moderators' actions, those of the support and those of the team working on anti-cheating, more than 14,431 accounts have been sanctioned, 10,529 for bots, more than 1,100 for multi-accounting, and more than 1,000 for illegal trade. That's since May 1st, 2025, and that's in a month. This volume shows an important commitment from the community, but also an important workload of sorting and analyzing. Please also note that the system is efficient provided it's used correctly. We unfortunately receive many reports that go outside the scope of the moderation, for example in Kolossium. Already monitored by the automated ban calling system, moderator cannot intervene on those specific cases and are thus unnecessarily overburdened with reports they cannot handle. We also noticed some distorted use, even abusive uses of the reporting system, which hinder the legibility of the legitimate reports. Yeah, for sure. If you're angry against your opponent, you ban it because you think he's cheating or whatever. First, mods can't do anything about it, and second, it generates more work for them. This is why we insist. An unjustified or wrongly targeted report slows down the global treatment and can penalize the entire community. For more details on how the system works, do not hesitate to read the dev blog dedicated to in-game reporting here. Improvements have, however, been made since the integration of the system, and you will now receive confirmation when a report leads to a sanction. This reinforces transparency and assures you that your efforts are not in vain. We are also thinking about a notification in case of rejection, inadmissible report, without proof, or outside of the scope. Your feedback on this point interests us. Is a negative notification seen as frustrating, or on the contrary, useful so you better understand the situation? I think both. What next? We continue to actively work on the fight against bots by exploring multiple axes, notably reinforcing technical tools and the improvement of behavioral analysis system, but also reinforcing internal teams in order to handle the more complex cases. That's good. People have been asking for this. In 2024, we also reinforce our rules in our sanctions table, particularly around cheating and use of third-party programs. Here's an extract from our current table. So these are ways you can get definitively banned. The complete table is available and can be consulted at any time. All right. In conclusion, moderation is essential but cannot be the sole response to the bot problem. This fight rests on technical tools, collective vigilance, and constant adaptation. We will continue to keep you informed on concrete evolutions while listening to your feedback on the reporting system, the transparency of sanctions, and the approaches to explore. Thank you for your involvement and your suggestion and your commitment to defending a more just, healthier, and more pleasant Dofus. So basically, mods are still going to be volunteer. They are working hand in hand with the reporting system. So when you report people, mods are reading the chat logs. They determine if yes or no that person gets banned. And in parallel to this reporting system plus mods, there are automated tools to fight the automated bots. And they are working on building more resources and improving their internal team that fights the bots by giving them more resources and I guess hiring more people eventually. Okay, so I'm gonna read now the link that Jay sent me about this. Is, by the way, just a disclaimer, this is Dofus Retro, but since they are doing modifications on the professions and Dofus not Retro, Dofus 3.0 is also doing modifications on the professions, I'm interested in reading this and seeing what they have to, like what they could do in Dofus Retro, and maybe that will transfer over to Dofus 3 eventually. In September 2024, you selected a revamp of harvesting professions for the 2025 calendar. Here's a preview of the mechanics we imagine to enrich the activity of miner, lumberjack, farmers, fishermen, and alchemists. To properly determine our first approaches, let's first go back on the limitations of the current system. Why those modifications? We want, before anything else, to make harvesting more fun and engaging since the current system has few flaws. Unequal progression. Before a certain level, harvesting is endless. However, at higher levels, it's too quick. Omnipresent randomness. You have no way to influence the harvest. It's based on luck. Passive gameplay, clicking and wait, is neither engaging nor fun, and it makes it easier for bots and other cheating scripts. Oh, a sentence that wasn't translated. We want to enrich all of this and mostly give you more control. After all, if your talent matters in economy or in fight, why not for the professions? We brainstormed for a long time on complex systems. Precision game for lumberjack, puzzle for miners, manage the line tensions for fishermen, etc. with detailed and animated interfaces. Nice, but it was distorted the base mechanic, your character, and the resource. We recalibrated to remain loyal to the spirit of click equal harvest. The big principles. Fixed harvest time. Time no longer evolves with your level. Each resource will require a fixed number of actions with a minimum delay and a maximum harvest to avoid anti-game behavior. Progression linked to performance. Your harvest will depend on two factors: your level in the progression and your success in the minigame. Each action will determine your global success rate, which will directly influence the amount of resources and experience you will receive. So instead of just clicking and getting a fixed amount of resources and XP, you play the minigame and you get more resource and more XP if you are successful. Homogeneous mechanic adapted per profession. All professions use the same principle: a cursor, areas to reach, and clicks or spacebar. The resource is reserved to you during the activity and you need to finish it before any other action. With repetition, your muscle memory will do the rest. We're not looking to shake things up too much, but to enrich the system while keeping its current DNA. The harvesting time will be now fixed around 6 or 7 seconds and will no longer evolve with the level. On the other hand, you will retrieve on average more experience and resources than you currently do, provided you succeeded in the associated game. It's an excellent news for professions who are more poor in resources or longer to level up, such as alchemy or fishing. Each harvest will have your skills increase faster than before. By betting on quality rather than speed, we're reducing the pressure on instant reflexes. If a player is busy on a resource, another player can harvest another on the same map, which encourages a more fluid and fair game environment. Okay. What this means for each profession. Lumberjack. Cut at the right moment, the target area becomes smaller with each hit. Miner. Touch a target that changes position with each click, as if you were moving from one ore vein to the other. Farmer. A constant rhythm with a generous target, a more relaxed game to fit with the profession. Fisherman. The action window appears after a random delay, like a fish taking the bait. It's up to you to be quick. Alchemist. Rhythm. Many simultaneous targets. The cursor moves from one to the other with each action. I'm not too sure what exactly it means, but I get a global idea. To summarize, harvesting times are fixed and no longer change with the level. The resource and experience you obtain depend on your level and your performance in the minigame. Common mechanic customized by profession. And we are favoring quality of your action over speed to make your experience more fun and healthy. Of course, we will have to properly test all of this to have a more precise idea. In the meantime, you have the floor. Let us know your general impressions on this first approach in the comments. So I kind of hate that, because for me, it doesn't really fix the main issue, which is, okay, I don't know about Dofus Retro enough to give a valid opinion. But if this was applied to Dofus, I feel like it wouldn't solve the main problem, which is the competition. Maybe bots would be less incentivized because they don't play the minigame as well as a human, and they get less resources, and an actual human that competes with bots would have a nice advantage. Maybe. But there's like 7 nodes of Millet in the whole map, and there's like 1 bajillion people trying to compete for it. Even if there are no bots, even if it takes 7 seconds instead of 3 seconds to harvest it, there's still there's not enough. The biggest problem is the resources are too scarce. And so I don't see this. I see this as a solution to a problem, but not the right problem. Yes, it doesn't fix anything. It'll just make harvesting more boring because you need to focus more for the same thing. Yeah, like for me, in MMOs, harvesting profession should be like you relax and like the absolute like blow off activity. You just, I don't know what to do, click, 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 you click the trees, you get some money out of it. It's low stress. You just cut trees. If the game is beautiful and like you have a nice music and environment around it, it's fun and relax. In Dofus, it's not fun because you have to compete against the bots and the other players. It's a high competitive thing, and having me like click the space bar at the right target while I see the bot clicking all of the other resources would be even worse. So I'm not a big fan of that. I'm happy that they're taking a bit of time before going into such drastic changes. Let Dofus Retro try it, see how it goes, and then maybe if it's a great success, then maybe we can think about getting this in Dofus 3.0. But personally, I don't really believe in that. Unless you have to gather a very small amount of nodes to level up, then the minigame could be fun, but like I don't know how many nodes you need to gather to get from level 1 to level 200, but if I have to play this minigame every time, I'm gonna become crazy. Okay, all that said, there is the Japan Expo in 1 month. I might go and try to cover some stuff. I'm not sure yet if I'm gonna go there, but I'm thinking about it. And then I want to look at what we're gonna talk next week. So, global top 3 of your concern for the June 2nd week. First topic is the quests. Quests are considered tedious, others with too many requirements, quest fights that give advantage to certain classes or others, complex tactical fights, quests sometimes blocking one another. Many of you are asking for a rework of quests to make them more engaging, more dynamic, and remove tedious blockages and restrictions that impede progression. More clarity on quest progression is also requested, as some report quests so confusing that a third-party guide is required to progress. All of them. All of the quests require Dofus Poulet. This is interesting. I think Some flaws with the quest are agreed by all the community, but some of them are not. People don't like always the same things. For instance, complex tactical fights. Personally, I like it. I like when it gives me a challenge. But some people are frustrated that this tactical fight that's hard, let's say Bolgrot, for instance, blocks them in the acquisition of the Turk Dofus. So you have two different opinions, and you can't really find a solution that one size fits all. I see people in chat mentioning Terra Cognita. I don't know how to pronounce it. Some people hate that you need to depend on a lot of people to do it. Personally, I like it. I always think it's a nice event to organize. You get a lot of people. It's not blocking anything, and you get a big party going. You organize them. Okay, stand on this tile. Go here. Go there. I think it's really nice. It makes great memories for me to play with a big group, and you can invite people from all the levels. There's no fights. It's just chilling with other people and helping each other, and that is peak MMO for me. But for other people, you might say, "Boo! This sucks. Worst quest ever." So yeah, a lot of quests that have people complaining have other people be happy about these quests, but the use of a third party is pretty much agreed with the whole community that they don't want. They would rather not have to go to the first noob if they could. And I think like if you have a big dungeon that's really hard to do, and after a couple of tries, the game tells you like what to do to beat it, but you have having a hard time to like find the right strategy. Going to the forums, seeing people say, "Oh, I use this strategy, this item. Have you thought about this?" Or even go to Discord, talk about other people's strategies. This is valid. This is fun. This is okay. Having guides for hard fights and say, "Oh, but if you pick like if you have more than 20% neutral resistances, then this enemy is gonna be hit instead of you, so you will survive a bit longer." Sharing like strategies, this is cool. Having an NPC tell you, "Go find this next NPC to continue the quest. It's somewhere in the world of 12, and you have to find each map." Then you have to go to the Noob to be told that it's actually on this hidden map that you would never heard of before. Then this is kinda... I don't see any argument to keep these kinds of quests. Is Dofus quest where you need to wait for a specific RL time? Yeah, throw this in the trash immediately. No one likes that. All right, enough talk about quests. Let's look at the interfaces. Many of you feel like the current look of the interfaces do not represent the spirit of Dofus. This is a topic that has been discussed already. I want a redesign that will better match the visual direction of the game. Others report there are still many unfixed issues with the interfaces, such as the reset of their positioning and the disappearance of certain modules, and that improvements are needed to make interfaces more user-friendly. So interfaces are ugly, interfaces are not that user-friendly. Personally, I don't think this is a big deal for me. The interfaces mostly work. They did a couple of adjustments to them recently. I like the ticking clock that you hear when your turn is almost done. So, and especially if they are still working with Eternaris, I think Eternaris' design are loved by all. So if you could include more of them, I think it would be like a easy win for the devs. Honestly, Istas doesn't like the special hidden maps. No, but I want them to keep hidden. If people do the quest and they go onto that hidden map, then they will know where it is and win my event. All right. Inter-server cosmetics. Many of you want to be able to use your cosmetic on any server. Yes. With the arrival of collection features, some of you are seeing the opportunity to make this possible. Yes, I think this shouldn't be even a topic. This should be just a feature that they implement. Everyone's going to be happy, except them, because we will buy less cosmetics. And I really, truly hope that next week they're not going to be saying, no, we want money and this is not giving us money.